DPS TeleClass.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to DPS TeleClass. Today I am going to take a thematic lesson for grade 5 students. Before beginning the lesson, let's recite the dua.
قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي.
I am going to share the learning intention and success criteria for today's lesson. Our learning intention is today we are going to learn about symmetrical and asymmetrical shapes. Here is our success criteria. You will be successful if you can define the terms symmetrical and asymmetrical. Identify symmetrical and asymmetrical shapes. Use mirror lines to complete the shapes. Before beginning the lesson, let's recall different types of line. Do you know the types of line? Here is some examples of lines. The first one is curved line, diagonal line, horizontal line, dotted line, zigzag line, wavy line, vertical line, straight line, parallel lines. Now I am going to explain you all about symmetric shapes. A 2D shape is symmetrical if a line can be drawn through it and either side is a reflection of other. The line is called a line of symmetry. Any line splitting a shape into two parts such that the two parts are the same is called line of symmetry. These parts are also said to be symmetrical to each other. This is sometimes called mirror line or mirror symmetry because if you put a mirror on the line, the reflection would show the whole shapes. A symmetrical shape is a shape that can be divided into two equal identical halves. One half of the shape is the exact mirror image or reflection of other half. The imaginary line passing through the center of the object or shape dividing it into two identical halves is the line of symmetry. Students, let's discuss about these two butterflies. Look at these two images of butterflies. What are the differences did you notice from these two butterflies? The first butterfly looks exactly the same from the left and right side, while the second butterfly does not look like the same from left side and right side. The image which can be divided into identical halves are called symmetrical. The images that cannot be divided into identical halves are asymmetrical. If an object is reflected in water, it is considered to have line symmetry along the water line. Here I marked in red line that we are called symmetrical line or line of mirror. Symmetry exists in architecture all around the world. One of the best known examples of this is the Taj Mahal in India. Here I marked in red color that we can divide the building into two equal sides. By looking at this picture, can you identify two lines of symmetry? Where are the two lines? Can you identify? The Taj Mahal is reflected on the water. So, the first line we can say is here, and the second one is line symmetry in alphabet. Which letters have got line of symmetry? I have marked the letters which got line of symmetry. Let's look letter A. It can be divided equally into two parts. So the letter A has got line of symmetry. Let's look letter B. Letter B also can be divided into two equal parts. Letter C, letter D, letter E. All these letters have got line of symmetry. That means we can divide the letters into two equal parts. Letter I, H also have got line of symmetry. M, O, these two letters also have got line of symmetry. T, U, V, W, X, Y. These letters are also have line of symmetry. Here is a picture of square. Can you tell how many lines of symmetry in a square? Do you know how many angles are in a square? Yes, a square has 4 angles. That means in a square we can divide it into 4 equal parts or 4 lines of symmetry. Here is a picture of triangle or a triangle. Can you tell how many angles are there in a triangle? In a triangle, there are 3 angles and 3 lines of symmetry. Students, let's do a symmetrical shape activity. This is a butterfly. We can divide the butterfly into identical halves. We can divide the butterfly in vertical way. The number of line of symmetry is 1. Here is the image of letter X. We can divide the letter X in vertically and horizontally. Students, let look this letter X in very carefully. Then you can notify 2 line of symmetry. Yes, we can divide it into diagonally. Letter X has 4 line of symmetry. Here is a picture of parallelogram. Can you divide this shape in equal way? We cannot divide parallelogram in equally. So parallelogram is not an example of symmetrical shapes. It does not have line of symmetry. Here is the image of trapezium. We can divide a trapezium in vertically. So trapezium is an example of symmetrical shapes. It has only one line of symmetry. An item that does not have an exact line of symmetry, item cannot be divided equally. Asymmetrical things are irregular and crooked and don't match up perfectly when folded in half. Here is some example of asymmetric shapes. In asymmetric shapes, the shapes are not divided into two equal parts. Students, let's sorting symmetrical and asymmetrical shapes. Here is some shapes I have selected. What you have to do is you have to sorting these shapes into symmetrical and asymmetrical. I will pause this video for 5 minutes. So you have to sorting symmetrical and asymmetrical shapes. Here is a picture of a star. It is an example of symmetrical shape. Here is a picture of butterfly. This is also an example of symmetrical shape. We can divide the butterfly in vertically. Here is an example of a symmetrical shape. It is an apple. It can divide it into. This is also an example of symmetrical shape. This is the rhombus. We can divide it into vertically and horizontally. Here is an example of asymmetrical shape. This shape does not have line of mirror. In first activity, you have to fold it, cut it and make it. I have given the shapes in next page and you have to identify which shapes do you think can be made by folding a small rectangle of paper in half and cutting part of shape out. Put a tick inside each of the shapes that you think can be made by folding and cutting. Students, here are the shapes. You have to identify which shapes can be made by folding a small rectangle of paper in half and cutting part of the shape out. After checking that, you have to put a tick in the middle of the shapes. Here is your second activity. I have given a flower. You have to complete this flower by using two mirror lines. You have to do this activity in A4 size paper. Activity 1 also you have to do A4 size paper. After doing these activities, you have to send a picture to your class teacher. Students, let's recall what we learned from today's lesson. You have to tell whether the dotted line on each shape represent a line of symmetry. You have to write yes or no. In first picture, did it represent line of symmetry? Did the shape divided into two equal parts? Yes, the shape can be divided into two equal parts. Let's look the picture in B. Did this picture can divided to equal parts? Yes, we can say that picture also have line of symmetry. In picture C, it has a rectangle. Did it have line of symmetry? Did it divide it into equally? Yes, it has line of symmetry. The last one. In that picture, is it a line of symmetric shape? Or it can be divided into two equal way? No. In picture D, that is not a symmetric shape. Students, let's recall the definition of symmetrical and asymmetrical. As I explained before, a symmetrical shape is a shape that can be divided into two equal, identical halves. One of the shape is the exact mirror image or reflection of other half. The imaginary line passing through the center of the object or shape divided it into two identical halves is the line of symmetry. An item that does not have an exact line of symmetry, item cannot be divided equally, is known as asymmetrical. Asymmetrical things are irregular and crooked and don't match up perfectly when folded in half. Students, let's recall today's success criteria and see whether you are achieved success criteria or not. Our success criteria for today's lesson is define the term symmetrical and asymmetrical, identify symmetrical and asymmetrical shapes, use mirror line to complete the shape. That's end of my lesson. I hope you learned lots of things from today's lesson. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
DPS TeleClass